Thank you very much. There's been 14 speakers from the floor, so that's very good participation. I'm afraid it was 13 men. So, 13 men. So we clearly have an issue here, but just to flag that. But thank you all for your contributions. It's been very useful. We have given a lot of opportunities for people from the floor. A lot of questions still Sylvain, so he's going to try and come back on them in 5 minutes. One of the things, just to make sure, Sylvain, you're going to talk about this energy campaign that's going to be launched, because that's a concrete thing that we can actually start to think about and plan. So Sylvain's going to mention the idea of a European-wide energy campaign coming from the Eco-socialist meeting. But if you could also try and answer some of the questions about France. I mean, it's very good to have Sylvain here to answer the questions.
So the first question we had was about how do we fight the Front National armed with eco-socialism. Well, that's a really very good question, because Front National is very good at coming up with nothing as proposals and winning votes. So, and also taking up the arguments that we make for social justice and stuff like that, and then getting the votes on the back of our proposals. So, because, well, so the first thing I think we at the Front de Gauche need to do is reunite, and this is being done today, but on a different sort of platform, and it's not an official party gathering, it's more of a club that's been launched by a University College London teacher called Philippe Marlière, who's in Polyscience here, and so the people like Mélenchon, the heads of Green Party, the heads of some MEPs of the Socialist Party in France are gathering today in Paris to explore ways to work closer together. So it's not strictly speaking eco-socialist, but it's a broader left beginning of a new way to work together to face the results of the Front National, amongst other things. So also the realization that the Front de Gauche has lost its momentum after the presidential election. This is a reality. I mean, we owe it also to the Communist Party that has, through basically crass, career-minded politicking, decided to go after some safe seats alongside the Socialist Party, applying a right-wing policy. So, although eco-socialism is a form of communism, so I still don't understand how the Communist Party doesn't get it. But hopefully there is hope today in Paris with this broader, if we have other people talk to Communist Party, maybe that can help gathering what has happened. In Spain there was the Frente Amplio, the broad front they called it, and it's not, or was it not in Spain? Was it somewhere else?
It was the front of the Green Party and the Communist Party.
So there was something called the Frente Amplio in some Spanish-speaking country. Anyway, so there's always ways to reorganize, and that's also what we're doing. Now, another point is that at the European election, of course, Front National came top, but the GUE group, the left party, the left group, the United Left of Europe, has gained seats. And more organizations have come to join that group. So that it's not just the far right, it's also the far left that has gained at European level. The broad, the generic answer to your question is the Gramsci quote about, is the twilight of the old system and not yet dawn of the new one, and then we're fighting in the dark. That's where we are. Now, how do we make a social movement? That was another question, and that was you, how do we make a social movement that takes the whole of society with it? Does it have to get really bad first? That's what I was, because do you need to come out of a world war like it's been the case in 1945? The social welfare has come out of that, or does tyranny has to become so bad? I have another answer about the wall, that mostly, the Berlin Wall mostly came down out of the exhaustion of USSR, not simply because of the strength of the social movement, but then linking to the Hammersmith and Fulham, this is example. It is interesting to see that also when you go too far, when the forces of neoliberalism go too far, they bring about what the Greek called hubris. It is going too far, and then people realize that it's suddenly unbearable. It's another way of seeing things. thing. So this has been going on for thousands of years. You know? That's how the Greek tragedy comes out. Anyway, so we're in the middle of a Greek tragedy too. Another point that I may have, international cooperation was another one. How do we create the international movement? That I think there's no easy answer, but network building comes to mind. And to give you an example, Céline Meneses, who used to be Jean-Luc Mélenchon's parliamentary assistant in Brussels, she now works in Ecuador and is part, in Korea's government. So that's an example of how people individually, or coming out, from one organization, networking into others, and make the link and form a close bond of organization. So it's just an example. This is basically network building. So on that note, I would say that uniting amongst ourselves to focus our energies against our real common enemy, an enemy that controls large parts of the media, academia, and political apparatus, is what we are about today, and that's what we need to do. Yeah. So this this network that is being built is launching a green energy campaign, Green Energy for All. That it's not yet launched, but it will be launching that at the end of the month. And it's calling for a day of action throughout Europe from all the organizations taking place in the European Action Network, European Eco-socialist Action Network. The format of the action is not yet defined, but we have produced a prospectus advocating eco-socialist shift with 3 points, basically breaking away with neoliberal framework, restoring democratic sovereignty, and proposing business and employment-friendly solutions to the climate, job.
And do you have a date yet in mind? No. Okay, but people have 3 weeks before this meeting takes place in London of 20 European-wide left-wing eco-socialist parties. So there's some time to have some discussions and think about what might we do inside Britain, England, London, the UK, whatever, to develop an initiative, perhaps radical protests, sit-downs and so on, the sort that Nancy mentioned.
It is going to be
power sites.
It will be targeted at corporations. Energy corporations.
Energy corporations, okay, so they're the target of the protest, and the idea is simultaneously across Europe to have protests organised by radical eco-socialist organisations protesting and demanding green energy. So there's some ideas there for what we might do in the future. 3 weeks' time, there's going to be the summit of the different parties. Those of you involved in Left Unity and Together Socialist Resistance will be invited, but I'm sure they'll be open to suggestions and ideas. Finally, over to Nancy. Last word to a woman.
Oh boy, I better speak really loudly in that case. You are absolutely right. The crisis is appalling, and it really is upon us, and there's no way in this world is going to be the same for my grandchildren if we don't do something. It is really quite urgent, beyond everything. To that simple thing, and I thought what you said was very heartening. Yes, I think people know. I think everybody knows, quite frankly. Everybody actually knows in their bones. It's become public. It's on the front page of The Guardian when the floods come and so forth and so on. But in their bones, people actually do know these things. And one of the things I would simply suggest is every time you walk down the street, stand at a bus stop, get on a bus, talk to somebody and mention it. Climate change, boy, it's hot in here. Hey. And revolution, you can say that in the next breath. Just do it. Get the habit of doing it. Make it be heard. I know this sounds small, but I don't know how else to do that lip of the 40 years in East Germany. Uniting the left. Yes, these are important considerations, but we've got to find constituencies which are much bigger. And grandparents is truly a good one, because you have all had grandparents. Some of them are probably still alive. They're wonderful grandparents. Maybe they were awful grandparents, but they were there. And you can also imagine the future of children, whether you have children of your own or not. This is a metaphor, grandchildren and grandparents. Think of it that way. It's a generational thing, and we all participate in it. And therefore, it creates a different way of looking at this world. It is a different constituency. And insofar as actually people are elderly and retired, they might have a bit more money, they might have a bit more time, they have much less to risk because they are actually closer to death. So, damn it, they can actually stand on picket lines and chain themselves to stuff. There is that kind of possibility, which is different, and really different. In your bones, different, it seems to me. And they have this investment, as I said, in love and for our future. I think it's very, very important. One of the things that happened with the Oxford demo, which is so marvelous, is a young woman who probably is about 15, I suppose, maybe 14, came up to me and said, well, grandparents, I don't know, I think I can organize grandchildren. And I thought, oh, thank God, this is just wonderful. Because, of course, more than grandparents, grandchildren have an investment in this future. And I thought back to the big demos in, 2009 for the tuition fees. And again, in Oxford, the school kids were absolutely wonderful. They were totally self-organizing and enormously powerful as a constituency. So again, think in terms of crossing way beyond the left to all of humanity, I suppose. Which brings me back to what I really wanted to say. I'm not kidding about this mobilizing through love. I really think it's important. I don't know what other people think about socialism. If it isn't about fairness, if it isn't caring for other human beings, if it isn't making a more equal and more decent world, I don't know what the fuck it's about. I mean, I really don't. So let's think how we can use that wonderful, strong, powerful feeling of being decent and open and welcoming to this world and to the people that are coming after us. This sense of responsibility, I think, is part of what that love is about. And it seems to me enormously important to counter then what David asked about fear, and what Brian also mentioned. This is the way to go forward, is you become less fearful. If you sit in a vigil, if you're at a posh university and you've also been raped, and you sit in a vigil, you are stronger for having done that. And you can imagine doing that for someone else. This is a very powerful thing, this collective participation. If we do it in very small ways, we can also imagine how we could become many, millions. And that is enormously important. And in that respect, I would come back to finally what Nick said about the COP, about the UN climate talks in Paris in December of 2015. Really, let us get all of ourselves, every grandparent, every person that we can, to Paris, to be on the streets, or here, or wherever we're actually making this manifestation. Because if we don't do this, they will really, absolutely turn the world into a cinder. So that's fine.